Now, okay, so it's an interesting question. It's a kind of a change from what we're looking at so far. What role can renewables play? I mean, a massive role. That's probably the short answer. I can sit down now, but let's talk a bit more about it. Just start off, what do I mean by renewables? Maybe you're all pretty familiar with it. There are many different kinds of renewables, dozens in fact, in renewable energy. The four major ones that are in the world today: solar, wind, hydro, that's us, and bioenergy. Bioenergy using natural materials like sugarcane waste, landfill gas and algae to produce energy that would otherwise go to waste. How are we getting on? Are we using renewables? Well, we're in Tasmania, of course we are. We kind of think we're maybe 100% renewable. That's not quite true in Tasmania because sometimes Basslink actually sends coal energy to Tasmania. We're about 87.4% renewable energy in Tasmania. So from a state point of view, we are doing very well there. South Australia now is getting up close to 50%, 43.4%. New South Wales, Victoria, well above 10%. The other states, they've got a little bit of work to do to catch up. The other thing that this figure here really does show, despite any sort of impetus from the federal government, most state governments do have targets for net zero emissions, for renewable energy out into the future. Net zero emissions by 2050 is the most popular for all our states, and they are mandated in their laws. So we are heading in that direction, which is great news. When people talk about renewables, a lot of the things they worry about, and we hear it a lot, renewables, they're not secure. You know, they're surge capacity, they break down in the storms or whatever. Let's have a bit of a look at that. What do we really need for security of renewable energy supply? We need to meet the grid stability requirements. Wow, what does Scott Morrison say? Genuine, fair dinkum power. We need to balance electricity demand and supply. We need electricity to go peak in the peak periods and then drop down quickly in off-peak periods when we're at night. We need a resilience to extreme weather. All those solutions already currently exist. Grid stability solutions are already implemented in Australia. We have solar thermal, hydropower, Tasmania is great for grid stability, sustainable biomass power plants, wind turbines with stabilisation technology, and of course Elon Musk's famous batteries in the South Australian desert. They're already happening. They can happen more in the future as we go that way. We need renewable energy combined with storage to combine that demand and supply. We're doing that again, power plants, solar, wind, hydro, biomass, energy storage with batteries and pumped hydro. Resilience to extreme weather. I mean, people like to bang on about the fact that turbines are unreliable or something, but we all know that coal-powered stations break down in hot weather. It's becoming far more common. This is really a technological issue, more to do with how we structure our power grid. Modern power grids, more diverse power generation, more interconnection between our transmission lines will make our grid more stable. All these things exist. This is not new technology. We just need to implement it. And now we've just got a few sort of reports that have been put together. Intura, Hydro Tas, if you want to be old school, becoming the battery of the nation. Tasmania is already looking at that. Similarly, in South Australia, they've done work and actually show that renewables aren't a threat to energy security. They are actually the future. They provide more energy security into the future. What about cost? If renewables are going to be a thing, they need to be cheap. Well, I am a man who loves figures, and I've done really well to cut too many out in this one. 10, 15 years ago, solar power, yeah, that was expensive. I wanted to get solar power 15 years ago and I couldn't afford it. But here we have a figure, and this line here, the grey one, is the cost of solar power between 2009 out to 2017. I'm a couple of years old now. And you can see that solar power has decreased dramatically down to around about $50, $60 per megawatt hour. At the same time, coal has been relatively stable, about $100 per megawatt hour. Nuclear, it's gotten a bit of press recently, gone up and down, but nuclear currently, it's about double the price of solar power. Wind has been relatively stable. Up here we sort of see the cost of each of these technologies around that 2017 time. Interestingly, and this is a different way of presenting it, this is talking about new energy generation. So, I mean, if I'm going to build a new power station, what is it going to cost me to run? Coal is cheap these days because all the coal-fired power stations are already there. However, they're all kind of getting very old. We need to build new ones. If we're going to build new power, it is far, far cheaper to build solar, to build wind. Actually cheaper to build maybe even nuclear, but not really. But it's a lot more expensive than wind and solar. Offshore wind even will beat that. Well, it's not in that list. No, you're right, because it is here. Hydroelectric is not in this figure here. Sorry, but hydroelectric, again, is pretty cheap, although it doesn't feel like it in Tasmania right now, does it? So where are we at now in Australia? Energy generation by type. You can see if for 2017, again, I apologise, these figures are a little bit out of date. That's so hard to keep up to date, and they are constantly changing. Renewables are about 15% of the market. It's gone up now, closer to 20% or more. And if you break that up, hydro, well over a third, wind about a third, solar, small-scale solar photovoltaic about 20%. Biomass, large-scale solar, getting there. We are getting there, and they are increasing all the time. This figure here shows that it increases. And this is showing between 2016 out to 2020, the investment in renewable energy. The dark green is stuff that's already been paid for, already been locked in, is underway. And you can see that from sort of 2017, a massive investment in renewable is underway. This has been financed, secured, up to 1,000 megawatts we're looking at. If you put on top of that plants or solutions that where the finance is close, we see it's even rapid increase. So that's one of they're still got to talk to the bank manager. And on top of that, we have those proposed ones are always a bit general, so we're not so sure about that. But again, there's a lot of work going on, a lot of people talking about how we can get renewable energy growing at record rates, those things. The last graph I've got here, Leon, almost gone. The future is here. What I'm showing here, this is Germany. Germany, we all know, is a backwater of the country. No industry, no technology. No, Germany. It's a world leader in technology. It's a big country with a lot of industry. In June of this year, over 50% of their power for that month was generated by renewable energy. 52% of their power. They have a mix, and you can see it here, solar, wind, others. Biomass. They've put a mix together, and they're getting over 50% of their power. And this last figure that I've got is just looking at in prediction into the future. You see the massive increase in solar, onshore, offshore wind, hydro there as well. Around the world, these things are happening. Are they going to happen in the future? It is very easy for us to do renewables into the future. That's all.